Well, we're back today talking with Jeff Kaplan of Kaplan Law Firm about estate planning. So let's talk about things that are unique to estate planning for parents, whether they're married or single, who have minor children. Now, I hear you talking a lot about guardianship, especially when you're working with people on estate planning. So, can you share a little bit about guardianship and why it matters, especially in this situation?
Absolutely. Yeah, the issues for parents with children, whether they're married or single, are somewhat unique. So one of the biggest issues you're going to have to think about is guardianship, and there's two prongs to that. There's permanent guardianship and temporary guardianship, and the law lets you specify who you want to serve as guardian for your children, for your minor children. Ultimately, a court decides based on the best interest, but unless there's some compelling reason otherwise, they'll generally go with your wishes. So you need to record those in a document. There's different ways to do that. You can do that in your will. You can do that in a declaration of pre-need guardian for a minor child. A variety of ways to do it. So, and of course, there's the permanent guardianship, which is a longer process. But you generally have, I believe, up to 60 days after you've passed where you can have a temporary guardian step in. So, for example, you might have a family friend, someone who can come and quickly take care of the children, handle their needs, handle immediate medical issues, medical decisions, those sorts of things. Whereas you can appoint a more permanent guardian, maybe a family member, someone else that will step in once this initial transition has been addressed. So it's especially critical for, obviously, for single parents, because when you're married and you have minor children, you kind of have, a backup. You've got a built-in free pass that you don't have to necessarily worry as much with a single parent. If the other biological parent is either not involved or otherwise unavailable, you want to make sure that you've addressed these issues. Otherwise, it can lead to some comfortable decisions, lead to having your children end up somewhere that you may not have preferred, things like that. So that's one of the primary things that you're going to think about. And along with that, with the guardianship, you're also thinking about healthcare decisions, authorizations, and just simple things like when you have your kids are at school, you've got a drop off or pickup line. You've got to give those folks names of additional people. So it's not complicated, but there are a lot of moving parts that need to be thought about, and they need to be put down on paper.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nothing that we want to actively think about, but it's so important, so important. Another thing I hear you talking to clients about is the need for a trust. So, can you share a little bit about why a trust is so vital, especially when we're talking about estate planning with parents who have minor children?
Absolutely. The primary discussion with trusts and minor children goes like this. Let's assume most estates are going to be, you hope they're going to be sizable. What you can define what that number is, but a lot of times you have a house, you've got life insurance, you have maybe some 401k money, you've got things. The likelihood is you have more money than you're going to want your 18-year-old child to receive in a lump sum. And that's ultimately what happens if you have a minor child and no strategy in place, no distribution strategy, no wishes put down on paper. If you don't have a trust and you pass, it's going to have to go through probate. The court will create a trust, but that trust will be minimal and it'll be set up to disperse everything once they turn 18. So if you set up a trust in advance, that gives you the opportunity to spread out your distributions. You can have an initial distribution at age 18, then you can say a certain amount once they graduate from college or turn 25 or turn 30, et cetera. You can create virtually anything you want, but it allows you to manage those assets and to be in control of when they get dispersed and when they get into their hands. The other critical component with minor children is making sure that you have readily available funds. When you pass, you've got people that are going to need to take care of your children. They're going to need to buy groceries, buy clothes, take them to the doctor, those sorts of things. And while most folks that you will have selected to serve in those roles are more than happy to bankroll these expenses initially, it would be nice if there was ready access to available money. And if you haven't done the necessary planning, it'll be a several month process theoretically before you can get to that stage in probate where the money is available. So if you set up a trust or you set up a separate account with these people that you've selected as either beneficiary, but primarily it's best to set it up as a trust. It's that way the trustee that you've selected will have immediate access to the funds and can help cover these expenses. So again, none of it's difficult. They're not complex issues. They're just steps in the process that you do that a lot of people don't think about, or they put off until it's too late.
Right, right. Now, you did mention briefly about healthcare, healthcare advocate, that type of thing. So can you share a little bit about why addressing that is such an important thing for parents to do as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's two aspects to this estate planning when you have minor children. One obviously is planning for yourself. If uh, things are in place not just for when you die, they're in place for the eventual or the possibility that you become incapacitated, you're unable to care, but you're still alive. So you have to plan for both. So for the parent, if you suffer an incapacity of some sort, whether it's permanent or temporary, you need to make sure you have documents in place, a durable power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, those sorts of things that have selected people that will care for your needs as the parent, as the adult, but also with your minor children in mind. Along those same lines, if you want those same folks to be responsible for your minor children, you can do that. You want to create some additional documents to address the needs specifically of your children, but maybe you don't want the same people, taking care of adult folks people who are incapacitated, have issues. It's, not necessarily an easy thing, and they may not have the capacity to care for your children the way you want. So you may decide to select someone else to act on behalf of the children. Just things to think through, and we'll help you through that process. These aren't things that you have to remember to ask about. We'll give you the guidance and help you with those decisions. And the beauty of the law is you can do most things in a temporary fashion. So you can select people that you can give temporary authorization to friends and family to make healthcare decisions for your children, to be able to take them to the pediatrician and sit in on the visit, to be able to request medical information to give to the schools, things like that, that you otherwise wouldn't be able to have access to if you weren't the legal parent or legal guardian. But during this transition, the temporary guardians, temporary healthcare surrogates can step in and fill that role.
Okay. And again, you just always are throwing out such great information.
Every issue raises three more issues. So
Yeah,
that's the fun
I
of this.
had no idea that we could have temporary and permanent, because you're right, different people have different skill sets. So just because somebody might be good caring for me as an adult, should I become incapacitated, doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best person to take care of my children. So
Well, and also that it's, about geography. You may have someone, your brother or sister, or someone who lives in Colorado. You may want to be the permanent guardian of your minor children, but that's a process that takes time, and you're not going to want to pick them up and move them right
right.
away. So you establish a temporary guardianship, maybe a close friend, someone else who lives locally that can step in immediately. I mean, we're talking, these aren't things that you plan for. So there needs to be somebody who can, at a moment's notice with a phone call, step in and go pick up the kids from school and
Right.
do all those things that that need to be done with expediency. So.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I know you talked a minute about the need for having immediate access to funds. So when we think about the other kind of miscellaneous considerations, what else would you say like would be important to include in that estate planning?
That's going to vary from person to person. The immediate access, it's a function. I don't certainly recommend that you keep several $1,000s in cash under your mattress, but the issue is having somebody that can access those funds. Even, for example, let's say you have a relative, your brother, your sibling, somebody else, or a parent, you can add them as an additional authorized person on the account so that they can have access immediately, even if they're not going to be the ones taking care of the children. It's about making people aware. Everybody who has a job, who's got to step up and take over a role in a specific scenario, needs to be made aware. They need to have copies of documents, and so that everybody is in on it. They have the information, and they can coordinate, make everything smooth, and um, avoid as many of the roadblocks and hiccups as you can.
Okay. Well, I just think that's great information to share with people, not just married parents, but especially the single parents. Because like you said, there's not the fallback person. So
Yeah,
the other parent may or may not still be involved in that child's life. So as the single parent who's, proactively taking care of the kids, that's definitely something that needs to be a priority. So thank you
yeah.
for reminding us of that.
No, of course, yeah. With minor children, the issues are important, but when you're a single parent, the urgency is even greater
Sure.
because, like I said, you don't plan for any of these, and you don't have that do-over in the spouse or other parent to step in when you need. So you have to plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah,
So, but
absolutely.
thanks for having me chat about it. So by now, I'm assuming people know that you work with me at my office, and we've decided to set up these Zoom videos as just a different format for sharing the information, question and answer. It makes it more casual um, and more relatable. So I appreciate you being able to do that, get my day started this way, and we'll look forward to doing more of these.
Absolutely. It's been educational for me to learn all these different components. So I love every time we get together, I'm always thinking of like, okay, we need to talk about this because what I've learned in life is if I have a question, usually other people have the same question. They just don't know who to ask. So thank you for being willing to just freely share this information. That's just so important. So thank you.
Of
And I
course.
will see you in the office in just a little bit.
All right.